In a boxing match between the problem child and former UFC champion, the Tro King won. Jake Paul squeezed out a split decision over the former MMA champ. Despite the mixed results, his first time in the ring, Woodley was eager to run it back after the fight. Check it out.
No, it's done. We're doing a rematch. For sure, I'm doing a rematch, so I got to get that win. It was too close, and this was a movie. Ain't nobody gonna push a needle like me and him did. We sold it out this pay-per-view. I think everybody was excited about it. There's some humorous moments in there. I couldn't even really watch a lot of it because I was trying to stay focused. But Jake, man, he good at what he do. If I would have allowed him to get into my mind, to get into my head, it could have been a similar circumstances as his previous opponent. So he was tough. He was fatigued in the fight, and he found a way to push through, and he came through strong. So I can't never knock him for that, but we got to run that back.
If Tyron Woodley gets the tattoo, he better get it fast, because otherwise we're going to book a different opponent. I told him if he wants to get the tattoo, put it on his Instagram.
Permanent tattoo.
Permanent tattoo. Then maybe we'll talk about it. But to be honest, I won convincingly. We're going to go back to the drawing board. But I think I proved a lot tonight and proved a lot of people wrong.
All right, there's some mixed signals there, because first he says, if he gets the tattoo, then we'll run it back. And then he said, if he gets the tattoo, then we'll maybe talk about it. It's either one or the other. Are they going to make the fight if he gets the tat or not? Can't be talking about it. It's a permanent thing. Even though the bet was placed for Rock, so he should get the tattoo anyway. But a lot of mixed signals. To me, I was on an emotional roller coaster watching that fight. There's times where I was disappointed and then impressed with Jake Paul, and times where I was disappointed and then impressed with Tyron Woodley. Barack, what was your overall take on the fight? I'll give you mine.
Well, first of all, yes, I do feel like the energy did switch up. Maybe not in a negative way, but Jake's energy did switch up, because after the fight, he's like, I've been boxing straight for 18 months, and I need a break, So, of course, people are going to think, oh, well, you finally tasted a real shot. You finally tasted real boxing, some adversity, and you're like, oh, I need to get back to the drawing board maybe, or maybe this is something that I don't want to do. But then it switched up the energy, in a good way if you ask me, to listen, you get that tattoo, I'll do this. And like you said, yes, it was a bet already. He was just supposed to get it. But I think, like I said before, what's really stopping him from saying, I don't want to get it? In reality, who cares about a stupid bet? You know what I mean? Like, they didn't sign a contract to get this tattoo. So I think in Jake's mind, he was like, Woodley's not going to get this tattoo. So I'm upset right now. Temperature started to flare at the end. I'm upset right now. You get this tattoo. Let's go back to the drawing board and we'll fight. We'll fight again. I don't have to go back to the drawing board, rather. Let's fight again.
Jake Paul showed that he is a novice and that at a higher level, he won't be able to compete with those guys. Now, that's not to discredit him. That's just to
sounds like it.
No, that's just to make it
that's
clear.
That's not to discredit him, but you can't compete.
No.
That's what you're saying.
And it just makes it clear that when he calls guys out like Canelo, it's only a troll, and not that he can really compete at that level. That was what was clear last night against Tyron Woodley, because there was, not that we ever thought he could compete with Canelo, but there was a notion that maybe this guy might be a natural. Maybe this guy might be actually special. But obviously with that type of opposition, who, all credit to Tyron Woodley, showed that outside of when the fight started and he had some crouching weird stance that I died laughing for about 30 seconds. Outside of that, he showed that, hey, he has some boxing ability, and throughout the fight, it was more clear. But I will say this, Barack, Jake Paul showed heart. He went through adversity in that fight. He was fatigued in that fight. Yes, he sparred tons around. We know about it. Fighters talk about it. It's just different in that prize fight under those lights. But kudos to Jake Paul for pulling through. I did see him winning that fight. Though it was close, Barack, I was impressed with him, and I also was impressed with Tyron Woodley.
I was impressed by both fighters. You say that we thought that Jake was a natural. I still think that. I still think he's a natural, but he only had 3 fights. He's plus an amateur fight. And under the lights, he had less than 4 rounds of experience. So just because you're a natural don't mean you're going to be looking great in there. You know, and it's hard to perform under the lights. It's hard to perform once you get hit and you get rocked for the first time. So I still think he's a natural. He's just where he's at. He's still a beginner. And if I had to sum it all up, I would say that the Jake Paul train didn't stop, but it did slow down a little bit. The momentum slowed down a little bit because he didn't fight a boxer and now he has a split decision win on his record. Every opponent he's fought, it was their pro debut. So he's not showing us that he can compete with the greats, like you're saying, in any division. Okay, let's say this. He's 190 pounds. So where is he? There's no 190-pound division at the time. It used to be cruiserweight. So you're 10 pounds from cruiserweight. You can come in at 190. Everybody else is going to be 200. And let's look at the cruiserweight division. We got we have Bradis at the top, you know. All of the champions are like Bradis, Lawrence Okoli. All of these guys are killers. And they're your height or taller. Lawrence Okoli is 6'5". You got Makabu, you know. So all of these guys are experienced guys. The guy with the least amount of experience is Okoli, and he has 4 years in, and he has incredible punching power. So let's say, all right, drop down to 175. That's where you got better beaters at number 1. And then guess who's number 10 on the Ring Magazine list? You have Joshua Buatsi. You're not getting nowhere near those guys. So if Jake Paul and the rest of the people, you know, are saying, you know what, in about 3 years, he'll be a champ. How? What do you do in those 3 years? Especially if you're saying you need to take a break now. Yeah. What do you do in those 3 years? How do you build up your record to get to those guys? Joshua Buatsi will still be there. Lawrence Okoli will still be there. How are you getting a title in those 2 killer divisions with that kind of competition in 3 years?
So in other words, Barack, Jake Paul, he wasn't on the F train when he reaches this last stop on Neptune Avenue in Coney Island, was he? I mean, it's not over for him. You do see more for Jake Paul in the boxing ring, right?
I do see more, but he's in a tough spot. Like, where do you go from here? If he wants to continue his momentum that he has with these big events, then he can't afford to start padding his record and getting experience with those 0-3 boxers. You know, real boxers, but guys who are in there to give you experience and also to give you confidence for you to beat them. They know that. Yeah. They're gonna try to win, but they're gonna lose. And he needs to do this. So you can't go from selling out pay-per-view, selling out an arena or selling pay-per-view and then fighting those guys, because then you got to dumb it down, maybe fight on Showtime. Does he want to do that? Is he willing to do that? Is he willing to fight fights with tune-ups just to get to that point, to get back to a pay-per-view, you know, and to be ready for these guys? Or is he still going to pick names from the non-boxing community, which eventually will get a little tired? We'll get a little upset with him doing that unless he does it Conor McGregor. You know what I mean? But still, even that is just not enough to rank you. You can't beat a Conor McGregor and get ranked and get anywhere near fighting for a title or fighting, you know, someone great. So he's in a tough spot. Like, where do you go from here?
I think the difference in the fight was the left jab. Just to break it down slightly, really quickly, I thought though he was tired, even when he was tired, he still was throwing the jab to the body. He still was throwing the jab upstairs that kind of kept Woodley at bay for most of the fight. So that was good. That was showing that he was working on something in the ring, but he also showed the noviceness I was talking about earlier, especially when Woodley started to apply pressure. There are times where he looked a little wild, times he was out of range trying to throw those power shots. And there was a moment in that fight, I believe it was the 4th round, where Woodley had a big round, and you kind of sort of look on Jake Paul's face like, man, maybe this is not the thing for me to take seriously. You know, let's be honest, the guy's made tons of money before boxing, though he has you know, his agenda with the sport. He says he wants to uplift boxing, wants to make it bigger than the NFL, bigger than the NBA. He has a long, you know, tough task, you know, to make it to that point. But I like his agenda. I just don't see him taking the sport serious anymore like he did the way he was talking before this fight, Barack. I'm talking about to be champion, to move further in the sport and take it serious. You got to be cut from a certain cloth. I'm not saying he's not a natural, not saying he's not a tough guy, but I think it's going to end with these type of events and not him trying to be a world champion and compete with the contenders of the world. Nevertheless, we were entertained.
The question was, is he a real boxer? Did he prove himself? I'm so sick and tired of that stupid question. The reason why it's stupid, because in this particular sport, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who can pass a physical and get a boxing license is a boxer.
Yes.
He's a boxer. No, I don't care if he goes in there and fights dancers. He's still a legitimate boxer. That's just how it is in the sport. Like it or love it. Sorry, this is not the NBA where you have to have a certain criteria, a certain skill level to be picked to get in that organization to be called a basketball player, to be called a professional basketball player. No, in boxing, sorry, that's not the conversation anymore, whether he's a real boxer or not. The question is he good or not? Let's get past that boxer crap, because guys who fight and they're 0-94, they're boxers.
Right.
They're just not good. You understand? So let's get past that. Now, I think that he learned a lot about himself that night. He also learned that he can go through adversity, which we were all wondering. They calling him the Disney kid or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a fight. He got rocked in the 4th round, but he survived it and he came back. I think Woodley was too tentative. I think when I say that, not because he was scared, he just didn't want to get hit by that right hand, and he went for every single feint. That was the problem. Every time Jake would feint, he would make Woodley have to reset. He would take steps back, Woodley, and that just took a lot of time from every single round. Even the round where you heard him. Every time Jake would feint, he would go for it. If he changes that up, maybe we see a different outcome. But then again, Jake has things that he can improve on as well.